Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, and welcome back to Dhabi, Vincent. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'd first like to say I'm a very big fan of OceanX. It is a non-profit ocean exploration initiative, but what truly stands out is your willingness to contribute and invest in something that most actors would perhaps avoid. You're putting very high capital for ocean exploration, very long-term data sets and global surveys that not only take years, but I would say decades for those kind of outcomes to materialize. And so I think such a commitment from the private sector is rare, but it is also increasingly important as we realize how everything is intricately interconnected. So yeah, I'd love to start by letting you introduce OceanX. What's the vision behind it? Love to hear more about it.
Thank you, Maryam. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation to speak here. OceanX is the brainchild of an Abu Dhabi fan, actually, Ray Dalio and his son, Mark Dalio. And the idea of the organization was to create an organization that celebrates the ocean, studies the ocean, explores the oceans, and brings it back to the world. And so what we do is we have a research vessel and we travel the world collecting data around the oceans, providing data to countries, host countries that we work in. And it is truly a very modern, very novel concept when it started 10 years ago, but now we're sort of quite well known, and there are a lot of other sort of organizations following in the footsteps. We're excited about that.
And so to touch upon that, you invest heavily in building partnerships and also local capacity globally. And you've worked here with the Environment Agency of Abu Dhabi, G42, but also New York University, Abu Dhabi. And during COP28, you made some remarkable discoveries with your vessel in the UAE. So you found some of the discoveries include the bramble shark and some deep corals off of Fujairah. But you've also supported coral resilience research through the Mubadala Access Center over at NYU Abu Dhabi. And on top of that, zooming out, you've also helped us scale or maybe transfer our national coral monitoring program over to partners in Southeast Asia to focus on building capacity, and not only that, but also to build long-term comparable data. So I'm curious, in a world where short-term return on investment, everyone's driven by that, what value do you see in investing in this?
Well, 70% of the planet is water. And as we were talking earlier, Maryam, we do a great job of weather forecasting using very complicated data sets, largely collected by national funds. These are longitudinal data sets, very comprehensive, and they really help us predict weather in the world, and that's why we have such good weather forecasting. Well, 70% of the surface is ocean, and none of that is collected. So that data is very essential to understand de-risking the ocean, both for transport, for food security, all of these things. And yet, globally, there's no unifying data sets, there's no large-scale data sets. So we're excited to be here in the UAE working with our colleagues at G42, at the Environment Agency, and at NYU, collecting that kind of longitudinal data that's valuable to understand what state the ocean is in and what's changing as we see this changing world. So it's essential to have that long-term approach for the ocean, because the ocean changes on a very long-term basis, long baseline.
So we often forget sometimes is that the ocean underpins climate, water, and the livelihoods of billions. Yet less than 10% is adequately mapped and monitored. And so we can say we're making major financial adaptation and risk decisions with partial planetary intelligence.
Right.
What needs to change?
I think that there needs to be global agreements and commitments to the notion that ocean data is essential for the future of the human experience on this earth. Understanding changes in weather, understanding changes in water movements, current, will dramatically affect the future of monsoons, hurricanes, all sorts of things, including coastal resilience. A lot of the world lives on the coastline. So we strongly believe that exploring, as you mentioned, less than 10% of the ocean's floor has even been mapped, or more has been mapped, but fewer than 10% has even been seen or witnessed. So while satellites cover the Earth's surface and drones and planes, the ocean is largely unexplored. So what OceanX is doing, along with our partners here at the UAE, is exploring that ocean all throughout the world. And I think that we encourage that and believe that that's important, but it's also important to explore it, but to explain why to the world it's so important to understand the ocean.
I think no talk is incomplete without mentioning AI. And so we're seeing rapid growth in AI data centers. Obviously, that is putting growing pressure on the water demand. We're already in a very water-stressed region, and we're seeing the ocean is increasingly becoming part of the solution. So with desalination and some of the coastal infrastructure that we're building. So from a systems perspective, where can ocean-based solutions maybe alleviate some of the pressures that we're anticipating?
So just like every other industry, like as you mentioned, AI is transforming ocean science. So on that note, AI is essential for what we do. And in fact, the ocean being a complex system is best addressed with AI systems. So we're huge fans of bringing AI into our world. But as you mentioned, it's a very power and water hungry business. And as it's growing exponentially on the earth, there are some very interesting technologies, and some of which you'll see here, about using the ocean, using the coolness of the ocean, using the water in the ocean as a method for cooling. So data centers that are employed in the deep ocean, or for example, desalination systems that are in the ocean. The ocean environment is challenging to work in, so putting data centers in salt water in the deep ocean is a very challenging, and is going to require a lot of work to understand which areas are going to work the best for that. But how to utilize, for example, cooling in the deeper ocean to help cool systems, these large AI data centers, is certainly going to be a direction.
Where does venture capital come into the equation here?
So I think that venture capital is already recognizing the need to deal with the chips, but also to deal with the energy required and the water required. And the ocean is the largest source of water on the earth, not fresh water, but the largest. So there's going to have to be a lot of investment in the area of understanding how to adapt the water that's in the ocean to help these processes. And I think that just requires more input, more study, more research.
I'm conscious of the time, and so my last or closing question is, we're now halfway to our 2030 goals, and we need to sprint. Thankfully, there's growing momentum globally, with all the treaties, but obviously also here in Abu Dhabi, the UAE has joined the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy, and so many amazing initiatives, philanthropic initiatives coming from Abu Dhabi, like Clean Rivers, the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, and so on. And so I think what's one thing, from where you sit, what's one thing that needs to happen to gather greater momentum and impact for the next 5 years?
I mean, it's a good question. We are so excited to be here in the UAE, and our vessel has been working with the UAE government, both in the UAE and outside of the UAE, actually, with great partners here. I think there's vision in the leadership here in the UAE around the necessity and the value of the ocean. And you are, as you well know, are a water community in addition to a desert community. So I think your leadership has a particular understanding of the need to incorporate information, understanding of the ocean. But this world community, our boat is unique in a sense that we travel the entire Earth. We've been on all basins of the ocean. We've been to most, continents, all continents essentially, studying and relating and understanding. And basically, we're all facing the similar problems with the ocean, with coastal resilience, overfishing, pollution, all of those things that are incorporated into COP and incorporated into, as you mentioned, the treaty that we have, the new High Seas Treaty, which is exciting. But there needs to be, in this era of fatigue around understanding and fatigue around meeting those goals, I think it's essential to know that the ocean has been here for a very long time, and it will be with us for a very long time. It will provide food, it will provide air, it will provide all these things, and we have to recognize it, and we have to join it. But it also is a really unexplored economic development option, because it represents 70% of the surface, yet it's not inhabited. It's only used for transport and for fishing. So there's a whole host of things to do with the ocean that I think will provide value to the human as we go forward, from biological things, pharmaceuticals, energy sources, ways to deal with waste, all these things. The ocean is this really hugely untapped, exciting resource. And with the advent of robotics and AI, this very difficult place to study is getting closer and closer and easier to study. So it's a really beautiful time to be studying the ocean.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much untapped potential, but unfortunately we're out of time. But this has been such an insightful discussion, and I hope our audience agrees. Thank you so much for your time, audience.
Thank you, Maryam.
Vincent. Yep.
It's an honor to be here.
Likewise.
Thank you all.